Och där är inspelningen igång. Och då vill jag passa på att hälsa alla välkomna till ett enklare liv som presenteras av Center Stockholm. Jag som talar heter Patrik Rovinski och jag har en medvärd med mig idag som heter Stefan Pettersson som ni ser här. Och ikväll ska vi samtala med Dr. Mark Howard som vi har med oss ända från San Francisco, tror jag det är. Jo, det är det. Och temat ikväll är relationer. Så vi kommer ta ett avstamp från relationer, men vi kommer också prata mycket om det kommer vara präglat av, som alla de här programmen vi gör, av Three Principles och vad det egentligen, den förståelsen kan göra för oss när det kommer till temat för kvällen då, som är relationer. Men jag förmodar att som vanligt så kommer vi spilla över åt olika håll. Och vi kommer försöka tala nu. Mark behöver försvinna efter 90 minuter, så vi kommer försöka hålla det här. Vi kör ungefär 60 minuter, Stefan, tänker jag. Och så lämnar vi upp för frågor. Men jag tror att det går bra. Vet ni vad? Gör så här att det finns en chattfunktion i det här programmet som heter Zoom, och använd den funktionen om ni vill påkalla vår uppmärksamhet, så får vi se om vi kan behandla frågan i farten eller om vi väntar till slutet med att behandla den. Och vi försöker runda av efter ungefär 90 minuter då. Och det här spelas in och kommer att hamna sen i vår YouTube-kanal för att bevittnas i all evighet, i tidernas tid till slutet. Och med detta så växlar jag över till engelska. And I will give a warm welcome to Dr. Mark Howard. It's really nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Patrick. Happy to be here. Looking forward to us chatting for a bit here.
It's great. And I just give you, I didn't give any introduction to you more than a title and your name. Could you please, for the people who doesn't know you, or for those who will see this afterwards, can you give me a short introduction about yourself?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm a PhD level psychologist, and I've been involved with the Three Principles since 1983. When I first heard Sydney Banks. And so I mentor now a lot of Three Principles practitioners and coaches and other professionals, as kind of devoting the last couple of years to doing that and helping people, deepen their understanding of the principles and feel much more comfortable sharing what they know. I've been married for 46 years. And I have a grown son. He's 38 years old. He lives in Los Angeles, California. And I guess that's enough. Huh? Is that enough?
Yeah, it is enough. And that would be a good starting point.
Because, good.
Yeah, it would be a lovely starting point, because I just realized that I seen, I don't know how many tapes or videos with you when you share, but I don't think I ever heard you mention your wife and son before, but that's might be just my memory doesn't serve me well. But I was wondering how have your wife and son been affected by your being introduced to the Three Principles?
Yeah, well, I don't mention them much in the webinars, but I tell, a lot. For me, the ways that come up for me when I share like examples are my own personal stories. So I share a lot of stories about my relationship with my wife, and she's always trying to tell me to keep the stories to a minimum, but they're good stories, But you see, when I was first introduced to the principles in 1983, it really wasn't actually the principles at that point. There was just this understanding that Sydney Banks was sharing with people, and so I share a lot in other webinars what that insight was for me the first time I heard Sydney Banks, but that really changed me, and it changed the relationship I have with my wife, deepening it. And so through the years, my deepening the understanding of principles meant that I was starting to see ways to even be more loving and understanding in our relationship. So as a byproduct of that, she was able to see the changes in me that really helped the relationship. And she too came to some Sydney Banks seminars with me. For my son, he was like 3 years old at that time, I think, something around there. Let's see, maybe 4. And so he grew up with us, you know, my wife and I living in this understanding. And I didn't really preach the principles to him, but, you know, the way that I raised him and the way we helped him deal with life situations and so forth came from talking to him from that understanding. But then he, in high school, out here in the States, he was about like 14 when he went to high school. We then went to a couple of Sydney Banks seminars together. So he now runs a mental health clinic in Los Angeles, and he's done all his work based on his understanding of the principles. So, so there wasn't really formal presentations of my understanding to my wife or son. No, they wouldn't stand for it. You know, you know how it is. It's like. It's like, I mean, they appreciated, you know, this new truth that came into the world with Sydney Banks. They really appreciated it. But, you know, when you take that home, you have to be very, very careful. You're not coming from your ego when you talk to them, you know, like, hey, I just learned this. I hope you can learn it so you can be a better wife to me. You know, you want to watch out from that. You know, you have to be careful not to come from that space, you know. Yeah. But we just lived it. And, you know, that's really interesting. We didn't really talk a lot about the principles. We just lived it together. And you know how it is. You live at another level of understanding, and you just bring that into all of your interactions. So, so I think that's how they benefited from it. You know, that's how it went in our household. And then, of course, my wife knew I was going to these seminars, and she joined me from time to time. You know, so I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, it is helpful. I wondered, did you have to drag her, or was she interested?
Well, you know, honestly, to tell you the truth, she was living in a deeper understanding than me. Really, she was just this loving person. And I didn't have to drag her, but she's not somebody that, I don't know, was attracted to going to seminars or workshops. You know, she just lived her life, and she loved just being home or being with friends or whatever. You know what I mean? But I didn't have to drag her. I mean, you know, but she just came. And I remember one time her brother actually got benefit from going to a residential program that was from the principles. So when Sydney Banks spoke out here locally in our community, we all went, her brother and his wife, my wife, her sister, and she was actually sick with kind of the flu, and she came along. She just wanted to do that. So, no, I didn't have to drag her along, but she just chose not to go to as many as I did. I went to everything I could get my hands on, you know. And what was nice was that she supported that, because our son was young when the first 2 years of this understanding that started to develop out here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she let me go to weekend seminars, you know, to spend a weekend at these seminars of Sydney Banks or meetings with groups of us that were trying to learn the principles out here in the West Coast. So it was just a beautiful, beautiful time. She always supported my work. That was what just such beautiful of her, because she and I, we were married 1 year, and then I got accepted into a PhD clinical psychology program in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. So she had no qualms to just go with me and supported me while I was there. So she always, was easy about my learning more. And anything I could do to become a better man, and a better husband, she was all for it, I'm kidding there, but it's
just go. Maybe you will learn something.
Maybe you'll come back and give me a chance here,
I'm curious, Mark, how you've been to school and all the education of psychology and all that. How was it for you to hear Sydney Banks? Does it click the first time, or did you struggle, or what's your story about how different this was, kind of thing you have learned in the school?
Well, something, I share this a lot too, but I just had a deep insight, and I don't know why, when I first heard Sydney Banks. And it shifted me to, I just knew it was true. I just knew that what I saw was true. That's what I was looking for. That's what my clients were looking for. I just knew that. I didn't understand it much, but I just knew that was true. And so all these other theories of human behavior that I learned, all these other approaches to helping people, although they did help people, were not good enough. And so it was really striking for me that I knew I could not do what I was trained to do, and but if I could talk to people about the little bit I saw, that would be enough. So it was really a 180-degree shift immediately. And then since then, it's evolved. I've just stayed on course because I just knew I didn't know enough, like 1 or 2 sentences compared to years of training in an approach. It's like, what? But, what's interesting is when you speak from that truth, that space in you of having seen something that you really know is true, but you just to get your hands on it, you're not quite sure about it. But when you speak from there, people hear something, and they're willing to hang out with you as you try to find a way to have a conversation about it. But that's what happened, Stefan. It was like, it wasn't, the rest of my understanding was gradual because, my God, there's so much more that we can understand. But that moment was immediate and very, very powerful. I had no qualms dropping everything I was trained in. Now, when I sit with people in this listening that I talk about, every so often, something that I had learned in my training comes in to help me. But that I don't lead from that training. You see, it's like, and so that's why I encourage everyone who wants to share these principles to to just believe in yourself and speak from what you've seen, and not try to compare yourself to what's out there now. There's so much out there to look at. And some people do really great work, you know. Even when I look at some of the Three Principles movies, I start to think, oh my God, you know, I'm not doing it right, you know. So it's easy to start thinking that, you know, or I'd love to be able to say it the way so-and-so says it, you know. But when we started, there wasn't anything. And I love that, because you just had to stay with what you knew, you know, and you know, I would talk to a few people that were around, and I would go to Sydney Bank seminars, and luckily for me, George and Linda Pransky were in the area. They were only 20 minutes away, so I would drive over and we would have conversations and together develop more of our understanding. So Stefan, when I first heard Sydney Banks, I was just blessed, really, and just really had an insight that really showed me. I knew that what I saw was true.
It's a different story from what Dickens said. He said something like, "Who is this guy?" when he heard Sid first time. We had Dickens in this fall, and I listened to what he said, and he was like, "Okay, Sid, give me the recipe." So he was just paying attention to his own thinking about what he was hearing instead of really hearing.
Well, yeah, you know, I think it just goes to show that it's a mystery. Like Sydney Banks says, it's a mystery when you really do see a moment of clarity about knowledge that's already within you. And, you know, I knew Dickens as he started to come toward the principles. You know, he was really like what he described, but then he got insights, you know, he found his own insights, and now he just teaches so beautifully. Yeah, we all go about it differently, but I think maybe what keeps us listening is that we hear a grain of truth there. And that hearing the grain of truth is really hearing yourself. It looks like it's coming from Sydney Banks, but it's really coming from you. So if everybody has different ways in which they gain levels of understanding, raise their levels of consciousness. And if you've heard something that has seemed true to you, just stay. Keep listening. And you'll see more. But people have different ways of coming in. I don't know why, given all of the trainings I had at all of the schools of psychology I was sharing with my clients, I don't know why I just saw this truth at that level, at that level. But I just knew in the moment that this is what I was looking for. And all I had was we make up our feelings. And, you know, hey, thought creates your feelings. And that was it. I didn't have anything else, you know. But here's the beautiful thing about sharing just what you know. When the first hour I met with my first client, after that evening with Sydney Banks, I shared that one piece. But then as we talked, we've more and more started to come about. It started to shape more and more. And so we all have our ways to these principles. And I would just encourage everyone who has found some feeling of attraction for this understanding to stay with it. And don't look for an insight. That's a killer, is you look for an insight, you know. Because who knows how that arrives, right? Who knows how it is that all of a sudden you see something that altogether brings you to another level of consciousness.
I became an insight junkie after my first insight. I wanted more and I wanted more, and I didn't get anything when I wanted more.
Yeah, that's actually the opposite. It goes the other way.
It's
wanting more is a great way of keeping more to come.
Yeah, I think that, well, it's beautiful. I mean, when I had this tremendous insight, the feeling was so beautiful, and I wanted to see more too. And I think you have to balance the excitement of discovery because of what you've come upon from a craving, a craving, like, oh man, I need to see more. I don't know enough yet, because I think that journey is built on a misunderstanding, because it's built on a misunderstanding about that you already know. So when you start to become insight junkie, you think it's outside of you. I've got to go to this Sydney Banks thing, or I got to watch this particular seminar, or things like that. And it tends to fool you into thinking, or thinking you don't already have everything. So that's the difficulty that comes up with that. But I was so thrilled that I wanted to see more. And you just have to balance that from an urge to I just want to learn more. I want to continue to be a student. And you know how it is when you first see something, it's like, I don't know, for me, it was like, oh man, this is just what I was looking for. And I just want more of it. Yeah.
I love the way you just said about being a student.
Well, you have to do that. You have to. I mean, like, I didn't do that purposely, but George Pransky would always say that was something he noticed in me, was that I was always a student. I never took it to the point where I said, I got it now, and I'm the expert. And you just have to see that, for me, what comes about being a student is the humility to realize that it's not about you. And if you ever get trapped into thinking you've got it now, it cuts off the flow of more of seeing more. Plus, you get in love with your own ideas. Oh man, listen to me.
Don't listen to the other guys.
Yeah, this is the one, this is it. But so being a student keeps you in that space where you, of course, know you've seen something, and but it helps you know that there's always more to see. And I always talk about that with my clients, even the 3 principles people I'm mentoring and coaching, that, this is just my idea. I'll always help them see that it's just my idea right now. And you have it within you to see it, or even see more than this. So staying a student keeps the humility around you, to keep your, like you were talking about earlier, Patrick, to keep your ego at bay. Because it's so easy to get enamored by our own ideas, because my goodness, an idea that comes to you from your understanding is like so far ahead of the ideas that are out there that you could get conceited, right? But there's always more to see, and it kind of humbles you, like, oh my God, I was teaching that. When you see more, you say, oh my God, I was teaching that point. Oh man, But so that's what has helped me, is that feeling for it, that understanding. And so you want to always look to see more.
Did you find that quality in Sid? I don't know if you had that opportunity to have that relationship with him, but did he occur to you as being a student? It doesn't look like that when I look at when I hearing him.
Let me see here. The first thing that I did have a time with him, and I was really grateful. Again, when I first was listening to Sid in person, the thing that struck me was he wasn't at all telling you to listen to him. You know, every other approach to psychology and therapy and mental health counseling, or even coaching, it's about the person who's created that approach. And so you learn that person's approach, and they certify you in their approach. It's about them. The thing that really struck me about Sid is he would have nothing to do with that. And he said, and the reason he didn't is because you have it in you. So he would always tell you, it's not about me. It's about you. You have it. So that was very powerful for me. And I can remember thinking, oh my God, this is the right person. And I think he would always say, I think you can hear this in some of his recordings, something about there's always more to see, or, you know, be grateful for what you've seen.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, he would always talk about there being infinite levels of consciousness. So he would always talk about the ego getting in the way, thinking you really know something. You know, at times he would talk to us and he said, well, you know, you think you really know something, but you've just had a glimpse of what I was able to see. He even said that about the principles themselves, like thought. I think this is really apropos that we're talking right now about this, because he would say we hardly see what thought is about. And I think you really want to get this, because what I've seen lately in the Three Principles community is that it seems like people think they know thought, but they don't. It's just great insights at this moment.
Yeah.
But he even told us that we really don't get the spiritual aspect of thought. He always said to us, there's so much more to see. So, you know, for me, that kept me, I guess we could come back to being a student, you know, hearing that from Sid. I didn't know what he meant, right? I don't get that, but I can only see what I see. But it kept me a student. It kept me offering what I've seen about thought in a way that didn't make that the answer. It was just a way of seeing it for now. And so you have to be very careful here about the principles. And use Sid's words to guide you, in the sense that there's always more to see. You never get it. You never get it. And, you know, I was victim of that through the years, of thinking, oh, I got it now. I was living in this world of, oh, I finally got the principles, you know. I got it now, and these are the ways to teach it. But, you know, that was just trying to reassure myself, because, you know, in my human form, I'm always trying to get it. And I think, I think our clients are trying to get it too, to nail it down and say, okay, I finally got it. Now I can live happy, and it just isn't like that. And so once I saw that, I just stayed open to being, again, thankful for what I've seen, talk to people about what I've seen, live from it. When I see it, I live from it. And just knowing there's so much more to see. And to me, it's still exciting, Isn't that exciting that we've just maybe scratched the surface of what these principles are? I mean, that's just like, there's so much more to see. It's like amazing how our beliefs get in the way of this knowledge that we have. So be careful with all the ideas that are out there about thought. I mean, they're just see that there are a person's insights, take the grain of truth, but stay open to go beyond. Nobody has nailed down thought yet except for Sid. And if you listen to him talk about thought, sometimes it looks really practical. And sometimes it's like, what? Wait a minute here. Like, I don't get that. But you stay open and you stay, holding that lightly and try to see more. Just point yourself in the direction of seeing more, and little glimpses break through.
I picked up something you said about as long when you think you have an answer, that's when you know that you're in trouble.
Well, it's like Patrick, when you think you have the answer, but you can think you have the answer. Like there have been, moments of insights throughout my 33 years that I think, oh man, I finally see the answer. I don't say it that way, but I finally see the way to be. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I found the answer to that, but not the answer. It's different. Like I'll give you a story. I'm understanding the principles, and I'm living, my life, and I have really shifted in my relationship with my wife, and we have not had any disagreements really for months, or arguments, or it's really, I was amazed by that. And then one day we have an argument and we go our separate ways in the house, and it occurs to me, like understanding happens, it just occurs to me, Mark, you really got caught up in your thinking here. Excuse me. And then it occurs to me, why don't you just quiet down? And then all of a sudden, it occurs to me that, here's what occurs to me. It's like, you're feeling better already because you realize it was just your thinking going south. But I don't think Becky knows that that you really just see it differently. She may be over there thinking, he's been there for 6 months, but now he's the same old self. Nothing really, it didn't really work. This is what came to me. And so I thought, oh my God, she may not really know inside of me I've really changed, because even though it's been a while, I got upset again with her and I yelled at her. So then I got the idea, go and tell her. And so I went over and sat down by her and told her just what had occurred to me, that I really have changed. And don't take this as if it's a sign that nothing has happened inside of me. But I think being human, what I'm learning is that we get caught up in our ways from time to time. And that really helped. We just got deeply connected. So I'm telling you that because to me that was an answer. See, Patrick, that was an answer. How do you be in a relationship? And I really have used that in my work with couples. I talk to them about how to maybe share like that with each other when it's appropriate. So it was an answer. It was a gift about how to be deeper in a relationship. But it wasn't the answer. So, Patrick, it's really important to value that you have seen something. But also, Patrick, like you were pointing to, it's not the answer. Because we're talking about a spiritual knowing. And as long as we're in our physical form, there's no way we're going to really see the parameters of all of that, really get it once and for all. And I think that's just a nice way to live life, to know that, well, I may see more about this nature of life or my true nature. And I think that's exciting to know that. I think, at least for me, it's exciting to know, oh my God, my life isn't just this. It can be more, you know. I think that's exciting. And I don't ever want to get bogged down in my good ideas about the principles. You never want to get bogged down. Because you see, if you're open, even with your clients, when you're talking with your clients, sometimes I've seen something I haven't really ever seen before. And I'm here working with my clients, you see, and we're talking together about something they're caught up in. And we're just talking, and I'm trying to stay in that consciousness, you know, of understanding and listening. And either I'll come up with something or they'll come up with something, and we just kind of say, wow, that really makes sense, you know. And I kind of say to them, you know, I never saw that before. So it's just a beautiful experience of life to stay open to this humility of there's always more to see. I hope that's helping everybody. I just really think it's so valuable to live like this, and to be careful with not letting the good ideas out there make you follow good ideas rather than stay open to your own.
Yeah, that's what Sid always said. That, at least that's what I pick up. That don't be a follower, be a listener. So listen, and like you said, pick up the grain of truth, and see for yourself. Instead of following other people around and adopting their ways of sharing.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. I think I didn't think about it this way, but I think that's what he meant too about not being a follower, or at least we can generalize it over to the fact that he was kind of saying, don't be a follower of anybody, but also don't be a follower of good ideas about the principles.
Yeah.
They're just good ideas. They have to be, because the only way a person can express a moment where insight occurs is with their own words. It comes out as their own ideas. And they're really nice because they're built. Those good ideas are built on that beautiful feeling of having an insight. But you don't want to follow the idea. You just want to try to hear the feeling of it, the truth inside that, and then listen for your own. You don't know how much we struggle in the beginning to get good at sharing this, you know? And, you know, so don't worry about struggling, you know, like there were times saying, well, God, please show me something here, you know? I mean, there were times I would do a seminar, and George frankly had a lot of seminars in those days, and he would have me do an hour and a half talk, you know, and I would sit there and I felt lost inside. I felt lost inside as I was talking, and people were I could just see that people were like looking elsewhere. They were reading a book, or, you know, looking out the window, you know, and but you learn and you stay, you don't take that too seriously, you know, about, oh my God, I can't teach this. You just say, oh man, what happened to me there? And try to learn from it, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm sharing that because it's nice to grab onto somebody's idea and feel more secure. But I want to tell you, that's good for the moment, but you want to make your own mistakes, and you want to learn just doing it the best you can, staying with your truth. So what I should have done in that 90-minute seminar was drop my state where I was and go back and just tell people my truth. That gets you realigned, you know. But I learned that. I learned that by, you know, not doing a bad job of it. So this has been wonderful. Is this where you want to stay talking in this area? This has been like, I mean, beautiful. What a feeling I'm in, you know?
This is beautiful, I think, too. I think we are exactly where we should be. But there was one thing that occurred to me to ask, and I picked it up. It was regarding with your relationship with your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, and might be very, very personal. No, I'm just kidding. You would describe. I'm looking for a description because I recognized what you said. For me, that is exactly what's happening to me. That you were describing that we're having an argument, and okay, so you go away from each other, and all of a sudden something happens, right? Mark gains perspective, and that is, I think that's what most people want to find a recipe for. How do I trigger that perspective gaining ability? And for me, it's been I don't know if it's been a struggle, but that's been dawning on me since the beginning, when I had my first realization that apparently I cannot do anything about this. It happens. It's like a spontaneous event that I'm using the metaphor. It's like I'm all of a sudden I realize that I'm thinking. All of a sudden I realize what kind of thinking I'm involved in. And when I realize that, it means that I, metaphorically speaking, there has been a shift. So I can actually see my own nagging about my wife or whatever I'm nagging about. And when I can see that, I can also see that it's not true. But I cannot trigger that event. It happens by itself. And I was wondering if that is your that's what I heard when you said, because you were having an argument and you went away, and all of a sudden you have a new thought in your head. You know how that thought is triggered? Is that a good description? Is that what?
It's a very good description. Oh, it's a very good description.
So you're being handed over the steering wheel. All of a sudden, I'm driving the car again. I don't know what happened. I was sitting in the passenger seat for 45 minutes. I was screaming and arguing as hell, and all of a sudden, oh, there's the steering wheel. Yeah. Oh, I'm shouting here. I don't need to shout anymore. Yeah.
I know. There's a lot here. There's a lot richness in what you've described. I sometimes some of what Sid has written in his books and his tapes will say, well, who else was it if it wasn't you?
Yeah.
It was you. I mean, that's the thing that to me blows my mind, because I can't see me doing that. But he'll always say, well, it's not the you. It's not the Mark Howard you that's doing it. It's the fact of you being a spiritual source. It's the fact of you being mind that's doing it, but that's you. You see? Yeah. So that's a mind blower. Because if you try to think that out as Mark Howard, I'll go nuts, you know, like I can never figure that piece out, you know. But I love it because it just reminds me I'm more than Mark Howard. And whatever it is that I'm more of is where this comes from. And that's me. That's me. But it's not the Mark Howard me. But we're not split. That's the only way we can talk about it, you see. You want to get that feeling that it is you. You are mind. No one else is bringing a thought to your mind except you. But it's not the Patrick you.
The personal.
It's not the physical form of you. But it's you. And if you could live with the mystery of that and just keep an eye on trying to find a little more understanding to that, that would be beautiful. Now, that's what I tell people. So I'm moving to another point from there. You know, that's all I can say about that. But it's beautiful. For me, I love that. I love when I'm reminded that we are all mind. And that mind, that energy, is what brings thought to bear in my mind. And it's not me, Mark Howard, it's me, the whole me. And I think that helps us with our clients who want what you said, Patrick. They want the recipe. And you have to sit and help them get comfortable with there is no recipe. But you're still doing it. That's just like, so where I help people is to just tell them stories about it for me, that I go along in one level of consciousness. That's all you've got. Thought and consciousness create a reality you live in that moment. So if I've created a reality of being bothered by my wife, I'm in it.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. Now, I may get the thought, oh man, I don't want to be in this. But that's another level of consciousness, you see. That's another level. And then, I don't know why, because of listening to Sydney Banks or reflecting on the principles or whatever, I get my understanding of the principles in some form. I'll get, oh, Mark, you just went south. Now that's another level. So here's the level of bother. And in a few nanoseconds, I've come up to this level. Yeah. Now, what makes that happen? I don't know. I just feel so blessed that can happen to me. Mm. But when I'm at this level of bother, I don't think, in that moment, I don't think, man, my thinking's wrong. In that moment of bother, I'm thinking, why did I get hooked up to this person who keeps bothering me? That's the level. You see, that's the level. But what's beautiful is because of the understanding, I don't live at that level too long. Mm. Something else comes in that lifts it all goes together. A different thought forms, your level of consciousness rises, everything happens at once. Mm. In a spiritual nanosecond. Mm. And when that happens, like you, I could say, oh my God, yeah, my thinking went south. And then will come in thoughts about, what to do. Like quiet down, like apologize, like, all that comes to mind. But that thought is at a higher level of consciousness. Everything comes up at the same time. So then you could live at that level. Mm. Mm. But our clients want a recipe for how to make that happen.
Yeah,
but this, yeah, but this is spiritual. This is spiritual.
Kind of interesting. Before the understanding, it went further south. So
It went
down, further south. You know, complaining and then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Isn't that something that even that is something that you don't have a recipe for. You just notice, oh my goodness, I don't do that anymore. Like I've had couples who come in, you know, and are thankful that their arguments don't last for 2 weeks. Because it went like this and then went down. They just said, oh man, you know, we just got in a disagreement for 15 minutes and then we remembered. We recognized what was going on.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful that that can come to us.
I just wanted to say something about, I read some, there was an Armenian philosopher. His name was Gurdjieff. I don't know if you read anything about him or know anything about him, but he was one of Alan Watts. Alan Watts was very inspired with him, and he used the, I don't know if it's a metaphor, analogy, whatever, but levels of consciousness was about remembering. So, like you just said, that sparked what you just said, Mark, that all of a sudden I remember. Well, I'm just lost in my thinking. And the more I can be in that remembering state, the less I will get lost. But there's still no recipe around it. There's no way to, okay, how can I make myself remember more? It's just a part of the dance or whatever.
Well, I think a couple of things. I think that's a beautiful way of sharing the knowledge we already have. It's just remembering what you already know. Yeah. Sydney Banks says it that way, you know. You already know what you're looking for. Okay, so that's one thing. But it's not even learning how to live in remembering more. See, that's trying to do it too. Yeah. So our help with the people that look to us for some help in their lives is to help them with this, because they're coming from a world where there's recipes galore. Yeah. But how long do those last? You know, I've had somebody just the other day that came in to see me, and she says, well, I've been to so many spiritual gurus and I've been on psychiatric medications, you know. And I kind of said kiddingly, because we had a great rapport, I said, well, how did that go? She said, well, I'm here now, you know, probably not too well, you know. So she joked with me, but it, you know, but all it is I think if you could sit in it, people are just looking for themselves. They're looking, as Chip Chipman and Elsie Spittle talk a lot about, they're just looking for their true nature that already is in their consciousness. And it's about us helping people as they move along and are unsure about how to handle this, to just help them see that will come to them. And so I do that by helping people. I tell people to read Sydney Banks at night and look at his videos and just stay with him, because he writes to try to wake that up. But it is a remembering, at least it looks like to me, like it's a remembering. But remember, Patrick, that's an idea, right? It's an idea of a feeling that happens to you, of something that happens to you inside of you, and you're trying to explain it to people. So you want to always make sure people say, well, this is just how I see it. It's like a remembering. People will like to go out and say, well, I got to practice remembering now. I got to practice remembering. But it's just that it's already there. So it'll be there for you. It just will be.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just want to say that's a really good pointer, that it's already there. So when the stuff that's in the way gets out of the way, it's already there. So it's not the act of remembering. It's just what is there when the stuff that clogs up the system gets out of the way.
I was reflecting of what you were saying about I think for me it's the feeling that when I'm in that horrible feeling or stressed feeling or anger feeling, it's then when everything happens. It wakes me up because I don't want to be there. But it's not me who wakes me up. It's just I'm noticing, wow, what I've been thinking or something. So the feeling wakes me up earlier than what it has done before. So
yeah, that's right. That's right. It's like a notification, you know. And like you said, it's been my experience too that it wakes me up sooner than before. Yeah, but that what you're trying to describe in you there, what Patrick's trying to describe and what I'm trying to describe, it's like this, but it isn't. All of a sudden I'm in another place, you know? I'm angry, then I'm in another place, you know? It happened too with love, you know? I remember leaving a Sydney Bank seminar, and I was just filled with deep love. I mean, oh my God, I was just in this beautiful, beautiful place. And then I go out and I start driving on the freeway, and all of a sudden somebody cuts in front of me, and I get all bothered, you know? So, but I think it's beautiful what we're talking about, because this is what helps people. And this keeps you solid in what you've got to offer compared to what everything else is out there. Now, it isn't comfortable sometimes talking to a client who wants a recipe, but you've got to stay there with your knowing that that's you can provide something greater than a recipe. That's the key. And you stay there and try to find your way to help your client feel more comfortable with not having a recipe. I noticed forgetting to, you know, like with only about 30 minutes left, do you want to open it for other questions, or what would you like to do?
That's all right with me. I have no further questions. But we encourage people to use the chat window. But I don't see any questions there yet.
Okay.
So maybe there are no questions yet.
Mark, when you work with couples, do you work one-on-one, or do you take both at a time, or?
People go about it differently, but I just see couples together.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, that's just been what I had to do out of the necessity of working in a medical center where, you know, you had to see a lot of people. So that's where I was starting to see couples together. And it was an approach that was new when I started my training in the early 70s. It was new to see families together, couples together. You know, it was a new approach to the traditional individual route. And there's logic behind both ways. You do what's comfortable for you. But I have no problem seeing couples together, because if I'm talking with one of the couple, the other person's learning from that. And I usually like to have them talk together about what they're seeing, you know, what did they see with each other? And that kind of gets them, you know, to a nice feeling, and then we build on that. Anyhow, so I see them together, and I know there's other people that like to see each person individually, then bring them together when they've gained some understanding.
Okay.
Somebody has some questions I saw.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah. I asked him to type it. Can you read that?
What happened to my chat? I lost them. Can you?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I see one. I'm wondering if you could talk about craving versus desire. I mean, all the things that we believe we have to get in order to be happy, but this is easy to spot when it comes to thought like, I want to smoke. We notice that we are caught up in our heads, but thoughts like, I need that person to love me, or I deserve to get this job, are a little harder to see. Oh, okay. Shall we go to there?
You can take that one, Mark.
I was thinking, oh my God, I shouldn't have opened it up to questions.
Bad idea.
Now you're Stefan, I hope that answered, first of all, Stefan, I hope that answered your question about how I see people, whether a couple together or individually.
Great.
We could talk a little bit more about that if you wanted to email me, Stefan. Okay. So again, what I like to do with questions, let's go back to what's the truth, what's the truth? And I think that when we look at craving or desire, first of all, we have to see that that's man-made, human-made, human-made. Because really the spiritual essence is this feeling that we would call contentment, which if you have a feeling like that, in that feeling, it's really nothing but just a beautiful feeling. I mean, deep in that feeling, you don't even think about yourself. You're just in this beautiful feeling, which you could call love. You could call contentment. You could call well-being. But in that moment, when you've had them in your life, if you look at them, in the moment of it, it's really nothing. It's just this beautiful feeling. So desire and craving live outside of that feeling. They live outside of your essence because they're ideas that you're lacking something, or that you really need something to have that feeling. And you don't. There's no way that something on the outside of you can give you the feeling you're looking for, or the feeling you are. And again, that's what comes into cravings or desires. That's what gets people hooked on habitual patterns, or what we might call addictions. It's an innocent way that it happens, but that's the misunderstanding. Now, that doesn't mean you couldn't like somebody being with you, or feel a beautiful feeling with someone. But to feel like you need this person or this job or this life is just a bit of getting caught up in thinking beyond this feeling of ease or contentment or well-being. And I don't think it's to look at it in terms of when you feel that way, is your thinking off, or is this a craving or desire? I don't think that's the way to look at it, or to get better at identifying quieter desires or needs. It's just to keep coming back to any needs or desires are created through our own thinking. They and just take a look at it that way. Just try to sit in that understanding. Because when you're living in in these true feelings of love and understanding, you don't need a thing. So when you feel like you need something or you're missing something, that may just be kind of like a warning light that you're moving away from what you're really looking for. Now you can want to have a job, and you can see that a job would really be a job where you can really create a lot or add a lot of what you are, and it not come your way, or that you might think you need that to express yourself, but that's not true. That's just an idea we've come up with. So I hope, I don't know if that's really helped you with the question. I just see for myself that when I'm looking at needing something or desiring something or thinking a little too seriously that I need something in my life, it's just to me kind of a sign that I'm kind of caught up in Mark Howard thinking. And just to come back, and I know, look, it sounds like I'm giving you a recipe, but, again, this all comes from remembering again, or coming back to seeing this truth, and try to come back to the feelings in me. Let's come back to there and then take a look. Again, that's the nature of thought and consciousness. When we get into a desire for someone or a need for someone, it looks like, oh my God, our whole existence depends on that. I mean, I've had many, many people come in who have left, someone has left them in from a long-term relationship, and they just feel overwhelmed by their own existence being their own worth, having left with that person, and really struggling with that, really believing that. So you can see how if you don't get that needs and desires are our own manufacturing, you can get caught up in your own worth being up. For you to feel good, then to feel your true nature, you need this person. That's what these people were telling me. So I try to help them find their own well-being again, their own sense of contentment and being satisfied with what is, and not look at worth being what they think it is. Okay, so somebody said something. So let me just check this again, okay?
Sure.
Thank you. I just mean that it is a bit harder for me to see on certain examples because the culture we live in always pushes us to get more successful. Yeah, that's true. I get caught up in it. Yeah, what saves me? Again, having the understanding that I've come to. As we've talked about a lot through today, when I get caught up in being as successful as, comparing myself to, thinking that I should do as much as, I get the feeling of that. And I'm living in that, but then thankfully I remember, oh my God, you're really giving yourself a hard time today, and you're just in comparison. And there are a lot of definitions in the world about how to be and how to feel good about yourself. And in fact, that's where we've all gone wrong. You know, Sydney Banks has mentioned that, you know, we're born in our pure state. We're born in the pure consciousness of our spiritual essence. And then we get contaminated. Our thinking gets contaminated by coming into existence. And you're just pointing out how it happens, you know. There are beliefs in the world that we start to take on, and it becomes ways we live our lives about how to be successful, how to be a good, feel good, what our self-worth is tied to. And it's an innocent stuff. It's just to see this is the truth of life. This is how life is right now, given the level of consciousness we have come into. But there's nothing wrong. It's just how it's manifested so far. But you could understand what's going on, and that could come back to your consciousness and help you. And as Stefan has said, it starts to diminish the amount of time you live in some of these beliefs we picked up in our lives. Yeah, the world is all outside in, as Michael Neal talks about. That's his idea. You see, that's his idea, right? Outside in. But you just see this. You just want to see this. And the minute you see this, you're back to your own well-being. You're being guided by your own true nature rather than the ideas of other people. Because that's all these beliefs are. Somebody else's good ideas, you know. Yeah, and I get captured too. You know, it's not like you get to a point of understanding where you don't get caught up in the habits and beliefs that you've had in your life. You just live. That's what Sydney Banks said to me. And I asked him if he would just talk more deeply about this one subject one time. And he said, it isn't about that. Just live life. Just live.
Yeah, don't try to fix yourself.
Yeah, you see that.
Yeah, I read that from the question that for me, that question sprang something else from me. It was regarding this, that there is some things that are harder to see and there are things that are easier to see, but that's how it is for everyone. We never will reach a point where we can see all the bullshit that is generated within us.
We're human. We can't get away from our humanness.
That's the that's the part of the humanness, to get caught up in the thinking, no matter what the content of that thinking is. So when I read the question, thoughts like, it says here in the question that it's hard for the person who asked it. So thoughts like, I need that person to love me. That is probably something that you get caught up into, and it doesn't ring for me at all. I never have that thought. So the content is always different, and we have different. I talk about like hot buttons that that when it gets you don't. It's like an impulse. So when you have a lot of things that you're not always aware of, and when those buttons are pushed, you're just enjoy the ride. You cannot do anything about it. Or sorry to say it like that, but if you can't do anything, it's like, I think it's C.S. Lewis, the one who wrote the books on Narnia. He says there's only two things that you don't need to worry about: the things you can control and the things you cannot control. So, like, you can't do anything about it. But there is hope, like Mark is saying. There is a lot of hope, like when we're looking into this direction, no matter we are doing it from a three principles perspective, we can easily go about it from a different perspective with Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever. But when we're looking into this direction, it will Yeah, we will realize more. We will realize more.
Well, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's well said.
Sorry, Mark, for interrupting.
No, I thought that was fine. It's coming to a close to where I have to leave the discussion, but I wanted to share that I really want you all to stay with as much as you can with what the principles are pointing to. And if you don't see something and you'd like to see something, stay with it. I would just continue to read Sydney Banks and listen to him and watch his videos. And there's something special here that I haven't found anywhere else. And so so here's what I mean. It's like, if you have questions about life and you have some understanding of the principles, but some of that understanding is still not helping you with some of the questions you have about life, stay here. Stay here, because whatever's been written by Sydney about the principles is not so much about just the principles. It's to wake up a knowing in you. And the knowing in you is really before the principles. See? So don't drift. Don't go sideways, go deeper, is what I'm kind of saying, because we might think, well, this is about the principles, but it isn't about the principles. It's about something woke up in a human being, and this human being's been able to share it with us in this particular form. And sometimes, being human, we want it to answer something we're still insecure about. And it will, but you have to just keep looking within this understanding, because it isn't so much the principles, it's what's behind the principles, what they are, that you are, that will give you knowledge. Well, anything else? I've got about 5 minutes.
Let's see what comes up.
Oh, wait a minute. I want to share something there. This is beautiful. I love what you said. We're always halfway to heaven. So this is something that, again, just amazes me when I listen to Sydney Banks, but you're either there or not, and you're there now. See, it's only your thinking that keeps you wanting more, honestly. So, but that's what happens, Stefan reminded us, Patrick reminded us that, again, we're just human. But heaven is, you're in it now. It's the same thing we were talking about, the spiritual nature of you is here now. That's heaven. So when you're in a feeling of love, when you're in a feeling of understanding, when you're in a feeling of gratitude, generosity, you're in heaven. So see, there's no halfway point. You're either see it or you don't. It's like, it's more like that, But what I mean by that is that you are fully in what you're looking for already. And so heaven is already here. You're already in it. And Sid has helped me because he's been practical at times and says, it's just love and understanding. And I know how to get to that love and understanding practically. It's deeper than what he's pointing to with those words, but it's still helps me because I know how to shift myself to love and understanding. And when you're truly in that feeling, that's heaven. And when you can enjoy that with other people because you're connected to them in mind, they're all the same, you're all the same, there's no separation, then it's even more heavenly. Like I was talking to Patrick before we got started, and just yesterday as I was kind of reflecting on this, this story came up, but I was just in the market buying food, and when I went up to the clerk, we just got into this conversation where, again, I felt this deep warmth and good feeling with this person. I felt the connection. And in that moment, it was a moment of heaven, really. And so you could enjoy this feeling that is you anywhere in relationship with people because you're all the same. We're all the same, and there's really no separation. Well, now physically, of course there's separation, but in a moment, you can feel the connection deeply with anybody. So I hope that helps. And practically, it's helped me when Sid has said it's just love and understanding. Well, Patrick and Stefan and everybody here, I've really enjoyed inviting me and been able to talk at this level with everybody. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. It was really lovely to have you with us.
Beautiful.
Well, great.
We can just leave you at that, and you can go about your business. I will send you, do every important stuff you need to do in the world.
Well, thank you so much. And I just loved being here, and I hope it was helpful. And let's do it again sometime. So I'm just going to sign off.
That's all right. And I will just send you a link afterwards with the recording if you would like to see it.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care, Mark.
Okay, bye.
Bye.